Welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about Ssangsu Geombup ship Iban, Form 12, Section 2, Part 1. So, taking it from our right wing guard, again, right wing meaning again the blade is on our right side, and the hilt's going to be in front of us this way, right? So, all the next three sections of the form, right, are going to start from this right wing position. Now, this is the most straightforward version, right? All we're going to do is going to draw forward, defense. Again, with a long weapon, still makes sense, right? Very similar to how we started the form. We're going to roll, being sort of ready and high to go, and we're going to stab down, again stabbing into someone this way. Now, this is, so again, critical hat, right, is the next movement. I'm going to be sweeping behind me. Again, this is more of a check as opposed to actually blocking someone per se, according to me. We're here, again, in Bomsei back stance, right? Remember, should be one of these guys, but here, right? So why the critical hat, right? Not critical roll, critical hat. So if we're here, we've stabbed. If we're allegedly in someone here, you're not going to be like scoop, because you're going to be dragging someone along all the way up until this position, right? One possible justification, right, is that if you think about each individual section almost like their own individual form from a draw, right? You can also think of it from this perspective if you want to, but seeing this motion, again, what we talked about in Section 1, Part 1, that could simply be a draw from the scabbard, right? Again, you'll be throwing the scabbard back as you draw up this way. So theoretically, again, it could simply be a draw, again, drawing the weapon, check behind you, and then move on with the rest of the form. Now, that does absolutely change what you do in the form, right? It is no longer then a defense into this roll, right? It's essentially eliminating those two first moves in order to make more sense of, again, this position. So keep that in mind. Again, can we still keep that thrust? Sure. I have thrusted. I would just need to get the sword out and then go in the next direction. That is also absolutely okay. So from here, again, what some folk might say is if I have actually received a strike, I can pop it off so they're open, and I turn into, say, one-hand cut. I'm going to use that momentum to roll it back into this position. We're going to talk about this position in a little bit, but let's talk about that pop-up first. So something that we've already discussed, so especially with regard to this one into your spin, is that could simply be, again, getting the upper momentum to come back down. Again, remember in Part 1, we had the same thing come with this diagonal. So if we're here, we can pop up. So now the blade's high enough, I can pivot around it to cut. And now I'm going to keep and essentially kill the momentum by bringing it back against my right hip. Blade is almost against my opposite shoulder. And if you have your free hand, if you're not using that scabbard, you can reach out this way. Now's the fun part. So this move, right, again with the hip all the way to the opposite shoulder, again with offhand out, this move, of all the moves, is in the Muyo Tonji. So this is in the historical manual that allegedly this form was based off of, right? So that does, so although it's definitely impractical, at least in my perspective, because I haven't used this, this is a historical move, so by all means, if you have an idea about what this move is doing, aside from exactly what I just said, again, having a position to like stop the momentum, because the sword is not really posing much of a threat, and you can't really whip it around because, again, long weapon, and I can't do like that way unless if you're a lot more flexible and more accurate than I am. So love to hear your thoughts, because the next move, again, I kind of cheesed it a little bit in the introduction. The next move, again, critical hat on. Not a fan of it, right? For a few reasons. Let's talk about that. So let's start off with theater of the mind, because I am not as athletic as I would like to be, right? So theater of the mind. I am in this guard, right? I am going to drop the tip. I can bring the scabbard across a little bit if I want to. I am going, in your mind's eye, I am going to jump rope over the sword. As I'm jumping, the sword is going to come up. As I'm landing, I am going to do a center cut in a cheonse, or a walking stance. In case another angle helps with your theater of mind, right? We're here, tip comes down, I jump rope over the sword, I jump up and land center cut. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, right? So theoretically, if you're athletic enough, could you? Sure. Again, that's the whole could versus should, right? Could you use that sword as a jump rope, live blade as a jump rope, landing in a center cut? Sure. Why not? Does it make a lot of good sense? Again, not poster boy, right? So I am very, very critical of that motion. So the lazy version essentially makes more sense to me, just as a move, is just using your hip to unwind and using essentially an invert block to come up. Again, coming up more on an angle this way as opposed to across, because we do want to use the center cut. Again, unwind, cover, and then coming in with that center cut. The reason I like that is it does have a defensive aspect. It has that upper momentum to augment that center cut coming back down. If you want a jump, in case you want a little extra oomph with that center cut, go for it, right? So the main thing is I want you to be aware of what is expected. Again, these videos are intended for you to have already learned the form, and this is just kind of reference or extra research, right? For, again, other perspectives on this. So theoretically, you were taught to jump rope over the sword, land center cut, before you move on to the next move. Now, the next move is actually one of the classic moves in 12, but also one that I really, really like. And it's nothing crazy, so, you'll see next time. But that is a way to get out of this, again, historical move. Again, remember the sword is a little bit longer, but that actually, if anything, makes it even harder to get out of. So again, if you have an idea about what you yourself will do this in the actual martial perspective, let me know. Outside of this form, we do see this a few more times in Gumdo forms. The only other one, the way you get out of it makes sense with one of these guys, but not with a Ssangsu Gum, right? Because if we're here, one of them is you literally just, again, make sure you're not cutting off your butt or your shoulder. You just turn vertical and then you keep the momentum going with another shot, right? So that is a way to disengage from this position, but keep that in mind. Let's run through that one more time again without my babbling, right? So again, right wing, kenjokse, stab, cover, pop up. We're going to turn. We love going clockwise for some reason. We're going to turn clockwise. Again, if the blade's up, the more up it is, the easier it is for you to turn. Obviously, don't do what I just did with that big sweep with my foot. That's just for dramatic effect. Here, turn, cut. Again, keep the momentum going into this position. Again, fingers all the way out. Allegedly jump rope over the sword into that center cut. All that to say is I have mixed feelings on this section, right? So there's really, really good aspects of this form, and then there's jump roping, right? Which even with a jump rope, I'm terrible at, so maybe that's why. But that's the end of at least this section, or not section, but this part of the form. We have another part. I'm not going to revamp the spinning cross cuts at the end of part 2 for section 2, just because we already talked about that in the previous video. So with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and keep training.